I was sent a link earlier by a trusted source and friend of the show, who I will not name by name. And I followed the link, and it led me to the cover of a memoir that is being put out by outgoing city council member Steve Hansen.
He's written a memoir.
A remembrance, I think. I can't remember what his language with it is. It's a retrospective. Yeah.
Retrospective. Okay.
It's a retrospective. So I took note of the aesthetic choices of the cover of this thing and thought that you guys might like to take a look at this. Hang on, let me bring it up.
Oh God.
Eager to see this.
Yeah.
Look at Kempa's anticipation. Oh God.
Okay, so here
Oh my God.
here we have
What?
Oh no.
yeah.
Was it created on Microsoft Paint?
Oh my God. But wait, is that supposed to be him looking down
I believe
on the
Oh,
urban
shit.
abyss
He has
from
wings.
on high?
he's
has
at like a
wings.
city council
And the
podium
sun
looking
behind
down
him.
from on high. Yeah. So it looks like he died, and this is like something honoring his life.
Okay.
Or it's Icarus. It's him flying too close to the sun and about to fall.
I see.
He's
I
right
didn't
in
even
front
think
the
of that.
sun. Like
Oh,
whoever
yeah,
did
like-
this, that's a dig, man.
Yeah, and this is
There's
pretty incredible.
An
I think
artist's
we're gonna have two
signature at
hot
the
takes
bottom.
on this, like we did on the pig in front of Doko, and I just think we're never gonna agree on this because I'm not sure if this is supposed to be like the sun shining down on
Why is Humpty
him
Dumpty there?
as an angel. or
Oh,
if
so
this
he's
is-
blessed. Okay.
right, or if this is supposed to be like a
Hashtag
dig at like an Icarus dig. Like now I'm unclear.
There's no way this is
yeah.
an Icarus dig. I think this is just here's the part, like him having wings and looking down on us from heaven is weird enough. But here's the thing that I want to know about. What's going on with this giraffe that's chilling behind this U? How does a giraffe have anything to do with the city of Sacramento?
Obviously,
zoo.
the Sacramento Zoo.
The zoo.
And he's
Land
totally
park.
in favor of it, like being in Land Park and not moving to Natomas or wherever they're trying to move it.
The
Yeah.
wings are that sculpture, the one that you can stand in front of the wings by the Capitol.
Oh, good call.
I like
Good
it.
call.
I like it. I like
Okay,
it.
okay.
I mean,
that
do
does
we like
explain
it
some
though?
of it.
Do we?
Listen, this
I
is
also
art, and I
wonder-
think we can all interpret it as we want. In my view, that is definitely Icarus about to fall from his waxen wings,
Yeah.
melting, and he will fall into the Sacramento River.
But similarly to the pig in front of Doko, like, is it subversive or did somebody think this was a good idea? I mean, I just want to reiterate that I think both takes could be equally valid. And I feel like the same is true here. Subversive, or like, is this the pedestal upon which Steve looks down on all of us in Pig?
Knowing nothing of
Like,
the artist, I don't know.
This is so busy. I mean, there's so much
So
going on
busy.
here, and the aesthetic choice is really specific.
Why is there a
And
Humpty
but
Dumpty
also
egg?
I don't get
mystifying.
Humpty. Fairy Tale Town.
That's Fairy
Is that
Tale
what it is?
Town, right? Yeah, that's got to be why Humpty Dumpty is there.
Listen,
But I will tell you-
everyone, it's another great fall. I'm telling you, it's Icarus.
Oh,
wanna
see,
know,
Dave's got the
'cause-
good interpretations here. I like this. So I
I'm
wasn't getting
following
out at
themes. This is a triptych of,
And all
of
the good
just
horse- all
Renaissance
the-
proportions.
all. The king's horses and all the king's men can't put Steve Hansen's
Hansen together.
his council membership together again.
I'm inclined to take it more literally. I mean, you literally have bark in the middle of this with a dog. Like, I feel like these are supposed to be places in Sacramento.
Does bark a lot.
Right.
In well, I was
Old
going to say in
bark, new
particular in his district, right? Because the Bark Park is in on the grid,
Yeah.
and then you have the giraffe and zoo and land park.
Yeah.
Then you have the fairy tale town. Like, I think this is supposed to be taken
Mhm,
literally, but I love that it can be interpreted subversively. And that's what I did with the pig. And that's all I'm saying is I want you to put some respect on my interpretation as a non-art person. If Doko can be
As a
either
non-art
or,
person.
this can be either or as well. And I just
Fine.
dropping the mic on that one.
My new interpretation on the Doko pig is that it's the cartoonish iteration of capitalist swine.
I like that. Yeah.
See? Subversive.
Yeah.
It's a monument to our police force.
Love it.
Okay, so my like final take on this cover, this to me, if I'm like someone who's like just trying to interpret like a piece of art for what it is sitting in front of my eyes, this looks to me like I'm imagining the creation of this being that somebody like Wes Anderson broke into Dave's mushroom supply, ate the whole thing, chased it down with a handful of those sugar-free gummy bears, and then squatted over a piece of paper, and this is where we wound up.
Oh God.
Oh,
Yeah,
so much.
That's a lot too.
Art
That was a lot
imitates
to-
life,
that was a lot to take
imitates
in.
art.
Yeah.
That's a real hot take. So I want to know who signed the bottom of this so that we can ask them if they had any Haribo
All I'm reading is Steve.
and
Did he do it?
mushrooms.
There's a signature right here.
Yep.
We'll look into it. I'll get to the bottom of this.
I am dying to know.
I had imagined before I saw that signature, I had imagined that this was like Steve Hansen bought himself like a fancy new iPad and Apple Pencil and was like, my time at city council is done, and so he like drew it.
Maybe.
He, like, did
Maybe.
this.
Could be.
Now we're just shitting on a local artist.
Yeah.
Fair. Yeah.
I
all right.
honestly don't know what's happening right now, so I'm open for all interpretations. But I do see, if I scroll down further in the link, that Steve is standing in front of the wings with a quote that said, "Here's the truth. Hansen gets things done for District 4 and for the city as a whole." And that's from the Sacramento Bee editorial board.
Oh, of course it is.
Oh,
That
thank
sounds
you,
right.
Marcos.
Cool. Yeah.
It's very
Yeah,
nice.
it's like, and it's him standing in front of the wings. So I get where
Here, we'll go.
I
find
get where
it.
this is coming from. And
I
then there's a
can't.
picture of him with
I
Daryl.
can't. I
mean,
want to.
This is nice. Like I am enjoying so much of this. We have a picture of him at the Pride Parade. It looks like with the LGBTQ and equality.
No, I'm just trying not to be like. I'm doing this thing where I'm trying to be a little nicer these days, and oh my God, please turn this off. I can't.
Public health and parks,
Please.
and then there's transportation.
I
And
can't
mobility.
be nice with this in front of me.
There's a lot here, and I feel like I feel like
no,
this
we
is on my
lost
reading
Kemba.
list
He's
now.
passed out.
Keep us down.
Somebody resuscitate
There's a
Kemba.
lot happening.
I've
and
gone too close to the satire, son.
Is the book finished? is that am I to understand that this book is finished?
Can we?
I do not know. I could not tell you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm speechless.
That was
And
exciting.
it's called The
An
City We
experience.
Love, a retrospective.
Memoir.
It's a report on the 8 years of work and accomplishments by Sacramento City Council member Steve Hansen and his team of staff, citizens, commissioners, and community partners. Steve was elected in 2012 and served until 2020 representing District 4, which included the neighborhoods of Central City, Land Park, Southland Park, Little Pocket, and River Oaks. Steve made history winning election as the first openly LGBT council member.
Oh, there's the pig.
That's very nice.
All
of-
rights
all
reserved.
of
You did a
this.
really good job. You're doing a really good job, Kempa.
I think that thank you, first of all, to Barry Broom for paying for all of this of GSEC. Also, it just tells me that Steve's not going anywhere. He's a mod Democrat darling, and he will be running for office again. And his story is not over yet in this town.
Yeah, he already has like an open account to do that. So whether or not he decides to weigh into this Senate race with Angelique and Eric and the rest of them, or whether or not he decides to run for mayor, or whether or not he decides he will definitely be back.
Yeah. All right. Well, Steve will be waiting for you.
Yeah. Looking forward to it.
Voices, the things they said. Voices, some from those dead. All the voices heard. Voices, things we say. Voices, they're in your head. All the voices heard.
Good morrow, listeners and viewers.
Doesn't that mean I'll see you later?
What?
That means good morning.
I thought good morrow was like see you tomorrow.
No, I think it means good morning.
No.
I don't speak Old English, so I'm just going to interpret it whatever way it's
Apparently I don't either. Well, anyway.
If you end up in my
morning.
apartment tomorrow, good morrow, listeners and viewers, because I'm not going anywhere. You have Kempa.
And Skylar.
And Shannon.
And Flo.
And we have quite a show ahead of us today. Really,
Are you feeling excited about it, Dave?
I feel fine. I just don't want to overdo it. Like, there's a lot of great stuff, but I just don't want to oversell it. I feel like I've been doing a lot of that, and I'm just holding back a little. I'm just trying to do that, I don't want to fly too close to the moon. So we've got a episode for you today, and the initial topic in this episode is vaccines. Vaccines have made their way to California, and I believe they've made their way up to Sacramento. We have a few tens of thousands coming our way. Flo, can you give us the rundown on the vaccines, these Pfizer vaccines, what they're all about, how they're getting to California, and what that means for Sacramento County and our region?
Sure. So on Thursday, December 10th, the first of the two vaccines that are currently in the pipeline for approval was approved by the committee. And then shortly thereafter, FDA approved the vaccine as well. And so 15,000 doses of the Pfizer vaccine are on their way to Sacramento. I'm not clear yet if they have arrived, but the plan right now is for those to go immediately to our healthcare workers who are on the front lines of combating COVID and are at the highest risk. In addition, in terms of our neighboring counties, I know at least San Joaquin is slated to get somewhere near 5,000 doses as well, also slated for their healthcare professionals. And so the plan right now in terms of rollout, because I know most people are thinking, okay, if I'm not a health professional, when might I be expecting to get this vaccine or have it available to me, is likely to be spring. So I would guess probably around March is the earliest you might expect to be able to be vaccinated. The other thing that's really noteworthy is that the second vaccine is going to have its select committee hearing on Thursday, December 17th. And so shortly thereafter, should it be approved, we'll likely get approval from the FDA as well, and that's the Moderna vaccine. And so once both of those are commercially available, then we will have some of that second vaccine available. I want to just admit to the viewers that my admin has sent over all of the documents from the FDA regarding the Pfizer vaccine. The Moderna ones weren't available as of Friday. I'd have to check back on the website and see if they're available yet. But I am planning to read through both with the FDA documents as well as the Pfizer and the Moderna documents, so I can speak more intelligently on what exactly are the pros and cons, who exactly was included in the studies, and what we know and what we don't know. Because one of the things that I've just personally committed to is I'm taking the agnostic view on the vaccine, because I really feel like after 4 years of gaslighting, it's really important that we have just an unbiased source of information around what we know and what we don't. So I'm going to be very honest with you about who hasn't been included in the trials, who has been. I know there are lots of concerns about Bell's palsy and what we don't know in terms of long-term effects of the vaccine. And so I am going to, not in the tradition of public health, which usually takes a viewpoint and then tries to really, explain to people why that's a good viewpoint. I really think it's important to build trust right now. And so I'm not going to be telling you whether to or not to take the vaccine, but I am going to be answering questions as honestly and as candidly and in as plain of language as possible throughout this process so that you can help to make a decision for yourself. And I think that's just really important in terms of trust building, because a lot of trust has been broken over the last 4 years. And I don't think it's appropriate for all of us to come out and just have a viewpoint. So.
Yeah, thank you for that. I should say to listeners who might not know, Flo is not someone you can only call Flo. She is in fact Dr. Flo. She is our resident epidemiologist of the show. And I mean, this is your life's work. So, I'm really thankful to have you here to talk to us about this and to be a trusting voice on this. Can you talk maybe just a little bit on, do you share any of the reservations that folks have voiced regarding first the Pfizer vaccine, and then where are you as far as your trust lies on the Moderna? I know a lot of the other ones, there's a lot more work to be done on them. Some of them don't have quite the same percentage rates of success. So these are really the two class ones. So let's talk about these two first.
Sure. So in terms of the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, I should admit as a disclosure that my mother is in the Moderna vaccine trial. So I have a personally vested stake in that one, at least not being toxic in some way or harmful to people. And thus far, my mom is doing fine. I've talked to her this week, and she's doing great. Of course, I don't know whether or not she received the vaccine or whether or not she's in the placebo.
Right.
So also want to be transparent about that, but she is in the trial for Moderna. In terms of the two vaccines that are coming out, the things that I want people to just be aware of in terms of, concerns are, we don't know what the long-term effects are. There have been reports of Bell's palsy. I'm still going to be digging into the data to be able to figure out exactly how many cases of those there are, and whether or not, there's enough to even be able to say that there's something causal. Bell's palsy is not, fatal. It affects the nerve endings, and it causes some facial disfiguration, but it's more inconvenient than it is, a major side effect. So I just want to point that out as well.
Most people are fine after a little bit of time.
Exactly. Right? Exactly. It's not something that's going to cause you, major, unless you're working in maybe media or something like that, where that could cause a major change in whether or not you're able to do your job. But for most people, it's inconvenient more than it is a major, medical condition that needs to be addressed or is dangerous or anything like that. So that's the main one that I've been hearing about. In general, though, I want to be very clear that what we do know is that children were just added to vaccine trials very recently, and those are kids 12 to 17. So we don't actually have solid evidence on what happens with the vaccine in children under 12, and we still don't have the results for the 12 to 17-year-olds because they were just added recently. So that's something that just to be aware of. The other thing that we don't know as of yet is the safety for women who are pregnant or may experience pregnancy in the future. And so that's, again, something that we're going to be learning over time. So just wanting to point those out as things we can't yet say conclusively. But for those of you who don't fall into either of those categories, being under 18 or being, pregnant or intending to become pregnant in the future, the data seem to suggest that the vaccine is safe as far as we know, again, because we've only been studying the vaccine for a limited period of time. So we can't speak yet to long-term long-term effects. And I'm not saying that to dissuade anyone, but I want to just be really candid about what we do and don't know. What we know, though, is that somewhere between 90 and 95% of the people who are vaccinated appear to be protected from it. And so that is an important finding, especially given that 3,000 people a day are currently dying from COVID. And so if you want to have contact with your close relatives who may be at higher risk, it is important to recognize that 90 to 95% is a really, really astonishing and quite frankly impressive protection rate in terms of a vaccine. Yeah. So that's what we know thus far. And I will be able to speak in much more specifics once I've actually taken time to read over the documents that I just picked up from Staples earlier today, because they're quite long.
It's long, yeah.
and I'll be able to say a lot more in detail about what we do and don't know. But I just want people to be aware of sort of where we are in terms of the knowledge, because people are absolutely right in saying that there are lots of things we don't know because these things have been developed. I think the place where, though, we are maybe underestimating the role of research is that this is coming out after 17 years of research. So the severe acute respiratory syndrome, SARS, came out in 2003. And so since then, we've been doing research on that and other coronaviruses as well. And so even the virus that causes COVID-19, SARS-CoV-2, is number 2 because it's the second of these types of viruses that exist. So it's not as if we were starting from scratch in December and January when this virus was first discovered. We do have some basis for the research that has been taking place, which is part of the reason why this vaccine was able to be manufactured so quickly. Right. But also, we have only been testing it for a short period of time because we had to manufacture it this year. And so we don't know the long-term effects. And so both of those things can be true. And I just want people to be able to hold space for both of those, maybe slightly unsettling, but also at the same time, slightly promising, realities of where we are with the science and our evidence base.
Yeah. I think that's fascinating. The fact that some iteration of this vaccine existed a year ago, before all of this started. Sky, Shannon, did you have any questions?
I do have a question. So as I understand, well, let me backtrack a little bit. So I think the thing that I am thinking about a lot is the different conversations that people might be having with friends, family members, coworkers around this vaccine. And Flo, I'm interested to hear from you, maybe if you have like a couple talking points for people to like hang on to, like facts and evidence talking points for people. And the reason for this question is because at a recent Board of Supervisors meeting where Dr. Kasirye, who is what's her title right now?
She's the public health officer for the county.
Okay. Where Dr. Kasirye was talking about the vaccine coming up, and how it was going to get rolled out. Monster Sue Frost went back and forth with her, pushing back on whether or not it was imperative that people who receive the vaccine also receive the booster, because the vaccine comes in 2 parts.
Correct.
And that really brought to me this moment of like, we need more tools to talk about this, because we have people like the Sue Frosts of the world who are giving us a bunch of bullshit. So I guess I'm just interested in, like, for our listeners, do you have anything to sort of like equip them for the conversation that's going to come up specifically in this next week as the vaccine is set to hit what is being stored at like UC Davis? Right. So it's here, it's coming here very quickly. So sorry, very long-winded question. What you got for us?
So what I would say is that I know it can be really scary. So that's the first thing that I think we as public health people, and I'm speaking as much to the general public as I am to my public health colleagues. This is scary. And so especially because it's a messenger RNA vaccine, and this is the first time that has been commercially available. We do not have a commercial equivalent to that ever in history. So we need to be honest that sounds scary because it sounds like DNA, and we've all seen Jurassic Park and everybody is like, what the fuck, right? So just like putting that out there. But also recognizing that, there is solid research that has gone behind this, but also that there are things that we don't know yet. And so I know that that's not as comforting as people would want it to be, because you're used to public health being able to come out and saying like, look, 99.9% of the people who experience this are really safe, and here are the caveats, right? And we are doing this in real time, and so we're not able to give you that same level of assurance. But what I can say to you is that I think the first place to start with this is how many people were in the trials. And we have tens of thousands of people who participated in these vaccine trials. We have people who are across the spectrum in terms of lived experiences who participated in the trials. And we can hold on to the fact that 95% of them were able to experience protection from it, and that none of them have, died or, and have been severely harmed by their participation in the vaccine trial. So I just want to hold that as like our truth for now. Also recognizing that there are side effects. And that is true for any vaccine, any treatment. There are going to be some people who are going to experience negative side effects. And what we balance is whether or not those side effects outweigh the benefits that are experienced by them. And thus far as we can tell, the worst of those side effects might be Bell's palsy. And I say might be because there's something that we think about in epidemiology called association and causation. So we have to rule out the number of people who might, by just living their lives, have experienced Bell palsy anyway.
Right.
And those people who are likely experiencing it because they were vaccinated. Mm-hmm. And there is a non-zero percentage of people who experience Bell's palsy every year who were not vaccinated in any way, let alone with this particular vaccine. And so we have to just hold space for the fact that, yes, there have been some cases of Bell's palsy, but we cannot yet say conclusively that they are causally linked to people having been vaccinated.
Did we explain what Bell's palsy is?
A little bit. And I'm fine with going into a little more detail about Bell's palsy because I think it is important. So Bell's palsy it sounds like cerebral palsy and other things like that, but it's really just a condition that causes temporary weakness or paralysis in parts of your muscles in the face. And so it sometimes can look like people are having a stroke, right? And that's part of the reason why it's so scary, because if you're used to, having been told the fast, association of like, is your face, drooping or something like that, as a way to be able to screen for whether or not someone's having a stroke, you can become very alarmed if you suddenly see that facial paralysis in somebody that you love. But it's really, that's really all there is to it when it comes to Bell's palsy. It's not actually a stroke. It's not associated with any sort of cerebrovascular complications. There are no long-term effects from it. It really is just something that happens sometimes as it relates to the drooping of the face. But it's scary because, like I said, it looks exactly like a symptom of something far more serious, which is stroke.
Right.
So the county currently, during this very important time with this vaccination coming in, we do not have anyone at the helm of the sort of the health services department. Mm-hmm. Thank you for that. Otherwise, I was going to do this for 30 minutes. So we have nobody at the helm of the health services department. Dr. Peter Bielenson has stepped down. What is going on there? And can you talk a little bit about kind of what some answers are within the county and within the community?
Right. So for now, Peter has agreed to stay on. I believe his last day is officially December 22nd, but he's agreed to stay on for a little while during the transition. They are, of course, looking for somebody to take on that role. And I know a lot of folks in the community, and just full transparency, I am one of them who is in favor of Dr. Kasirye stepping into that role. I know that there are concerns about the public health officer also being the department director for health services. It seems to me like there are options to be able to have another public health officer, but also at the state level, the director of the Department of Public Health is also our state public health officer. So there is a model that exists where both of those exist in one person. And then you rely on your deputies and your assistants to be able to help out with some of the more administrative tasks. And I think that that's certainly possible for the county. I appreciate their reservation because Dr. Kasirye is a really good public health officer, of losing her in that role, especially while we're still trying to navigate a pandemic. I also feel like it's unfortunate when someone's success in a role makes it so that they're not eligible for being able to have another role that they also could be really good at, and it also can be important to have their voice in. And I know lots of people have experienced this, where people like you in a certain role and then are unwilling to allow you to be able to assume other roles. And so my encouragement to the county would be not to fall into that trap of liking Dr. Kasirye in this particular role and then not allowing her to be able to chart her own path and be able to have, exceedingly more influence over the entire department by allowing her to be able to step into this role as well. And I also think that there is a model that could, be put in place where she could occupy both positions at the same time with the help of assistants and deputies.
I like that. I don't really have a dog in this fight, but it just makes sense to have somebody who is so steeped in public health, who has been there from the beginning of this pandemic in public health, and who really stepped up and put her career on the line, standing up to Nav Gill when he's over there giving $104 million in CARES Act money to the Sheriff's Department that should have gone to the people of Sacramento County and to fighting this pandemic. To me, it just makes sense that she should, at the very least, through the end of this, navigate us through it.
I totally agree. And I would also add to that, the Department of Health Services covers a lot of the places where naturally the CARES Act dollars would have gone, and where if there's a second CARES authorization, they would go. And so it always seemed odd that there was this committee that Nav Gill put together that didn't include Peter or Olivia, because it was just like, what are we doing here? And so I feel like, given that we have hopefully learned from the error of that past decision, that this time, Ann Edwards would engage, hopefully the authority would be given naturally to the Department of Health Services director and the public health officer, as opposed to just being given to the county executive alone. But that it would quite naturally be able to be a role where you could think more comprehensively and expansively on what are all of the ways, because we certainly need to think about homeless services when we're talking about navigating the pandemic. We need to be thinking about rental assistance when we're talking about navigating the pandemic. We need to be thinking about small businesses when we're talking about navigating the pandemic. And I think in the role of Department of Health Services or Director of Health Services, you're in a much better position to be thinking more comprehensively, because you have so many departments under you, than when you're only operating from the perspective of the public health officer. And so then you're over, the testing and the outreach and now the vaccine and all of those kinds of things. So I would love to be able to see someone in that position, navigating the funding and ultimately the operations, who's going to be thinking about all of those things comprehensively and how they are interdependent of one another.
Awesome. Thank you for all of that update, Dr. Flo. Can we move on? I don't know how much time we have in the episode, but I wanted to talk a little bit about a very comprehensive piece that came out in the Sacramento Tea by our dear friend Teresa Cliffs.
I love that. Love that.
It's so good.
I've actually never met
she
Teresa.
Was totally unaware that was a nickname that was happening, and was a little bit humbled and a little bit bashful about it. So
that's funny. Yeah, I've never talked to her, so I'm just throwing out nicknames to people I've never met now. But she does a lot of work over at that paper, and here's another piece that she did that very comprehensive. They actually interview a doctor that some of us might know. the name of Flojan Kofer in this piece. It is.
I'm
It's
not
just,
a doctor. I'm a kiddo. Remember that always.
All right, kiddo
Oh.
Kofer. Yeah, I mean, we don't have time for that shit.
We're gonna be here all night.
But I want to talk about this piece a bit. It basically is outlining the fact that, you know, during 6 months into this conversation that we've seen Sacramento have ever since the George Floyd protests started on defunding the police, it's still going on. There are still people who feel strongly about this. The Sacramento People's Budget has come out with tens of thousands of people saying, no, you know, we should be defunding the police and putting those dollars towards actually helping people. Our city still feels the need to hire more and more cops. At the end of this month, 32 recruits are going to graduate from the police academy here in Sacramento. And the Sac PD will have 713 sworn officers on staff. This is more than the 2008 level of 710 officers, just below the pre-recession, 2008 recession numbers in 2007 of 735 officers. But again, you know, this is in light of this conversation that we've been having, saying that for decades, we've been overstaffing and overfunding our police force in Sacramento. So what does this mean? And this is open to everybody, that our police force still feels that it has the free pass to continue to hire and hire and hire, when we have so many people saying these cops are killing people, these cops are dangerous. And not only that, the money that could be going to helping people is going to these cops.
Right. I mean, especially in this story comes out also at a time for Sacramento when the cops now, every weekend, every Saturday, the cops come down to the Capitol and run security for white supremacists. So that it's hard for me to like read this article like without having it in that context. Like it really just drives it home. It's not like I don't know, you know, so in case people didn't already know, the same thing that happened the previous Saturday, you know, the MAGA people came back out, Proud Boys came back out, there was a bunch of anti-fascists who showed up to counter protest. Things became somewhat violent and a few small skirmishes, and then the cops arrested a bunch of anti-fascists. So
that's like all they arrested.
And if you watch all of these videos, we'll have like the Proud Boys come out, they fucking shoot bear mace around and like assault people. And then when the anti-fascists come after them, they literally just run and hide behind the cops, who are happy to sit there and stand between them and the anti-fascists. And then will, in many cases, go bull rush the anti-fascists and start arresting people, impounding their vehicles. Like, it's fucking blatant. So
this is Chief Hahn's police force, this progressive chief's police force.
Progressive doesn't exist, by the way.
So I don't know, obviously we don't want to obviously it's a bad idea to throw all this funding at the cops, even without that as a reckoning. But another thing that the main thing that kind of creeps me out about there being this big push to get more cops in and whatnot is that we are this country is teetering on the edge of this fucking cliff, right? Where there's 1 million people who are unemployed. A lot of the eviction protections in the country have rolled back. It looks like there's no help coming between from the feds, in terms of any kind of stimulus or any kind of anything to help all the people who are unemployed, right? So we are coming up, unless something major happens, we're coming up to a really scary time, right? Where there's going to be a lot of people who are really fucking desperate, whose backs are up against the wall, who are losing their house, who can't afford food. And to me, the response of like, we need to beef up the police force kind of speaks to this thing where, like, to me, it's like, okay, so what does our government think is coming down the pipe? Right? Like, if these guys are so convinced that we need all these fucking extra cops, what do they see coming, you know, for everybody else? Why do we need more cops? Because as we've gone over on this show 1.5 million times, the cops do not exist to like serve and protect the community. That's been a lie the entire time. That's not why they're here. They exist to serve and protect capital, and they exist to enforce the status quo on people, whether or not it's good for the people who have to live under it, right? So with that in mind, with the country, with so many poor and working class people on the precipice of like basically having to resort to fucking crime to survive, and to have the government like beef up the cops this much, that's fucking scary to me. That to me says that our government sees something is fucking coming and they're getting ready for it.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, Shannon.
Well, I guess the thing that I was thinking is that the what's his ass? The master of crows, Daryl Steinberg. The mayor responded to some of this by saying, you know, that he's all about filling empty positions, but really wants to focus on community policing. So he doesn't want to bring more than fill the empty positions, right?
The
and I
neo-lib
call,
shit.
like,
Yeah.
Complete, just fuck off with that bullshit. Like, I am so done with the like, let's train and let's focus on community policing, because you know what, if you wanted to fucking focus on community policing, you wouldn't be pulling over a queer medic and hassling them on the middle of, what was that, T Street over the weekend when they pulled over that medic,
T and 10th,
and then like take off with their car and give that, when that person, I was watching the live stream of that video, and the person is like, where do I get my car from? And they're like, the cops are just basically like, fuck off. Like, community policing, as I understand it, is that like cops get to know people in the neighborhood, which I think is fucking bullshit anyway, but like, live your fucking message, you know, instead of going out and protecting these like violent assholes and protecting property and frankly stealing away money from poor people, from people in marginalized communities, from people who need health care, from people who need education, groceries, clothing, shelter, like all of these things.
They're here to enforce against them. The people stealing diapers because they need them for their kids. They're here to enforce against people who are stealing food because they need food. This is what they are here to do. And to Skylar's point, and sorry for interrupting, but like, you're so right. Like, both of you, like, this is, they're doing their job. They're doing precisely what they were hired to do. So when Chief Hahn is telling Daryl Steinberg, like, oh, you know, we want to do community policing, that's still what this looks like. That is still what it looks like.
Right.
So jumping in here, one, there's no evidence that having police who know the community yield any better outcomes. That's first thing. Like there's no evidence that having browner or blacker police officers yield better outcomes. There's just no evidence for that, right? In our current iteration. So the idea that people walking a beat and doing these old school things, it's like, when we talk about evidence-informed practice, it's not evidence informed. There's nothing to show that works. The second thing I would say is that, you know, I think when we're considering all of this, someone, you know, and I don't remember who it was because I'm always scrolling through my social media feeds, but someone said, how will we know when we're in a civil war? And I go back to, you know, our Patreon only episode of like, look, civil war is likely to come given how ideologically divided that we are. And I think these are the things that we need to look at when we see, you know, to Skylar and Shannon's point, like police kind of beefing themselves up and taking certain positions and whatever else. Like the question struck me as just so insightful because I think we're all imagining war, domestic war, looking the way it did in
Right.
1861.
Yeah.
And it's not going to look like that. It's going to look like the police taking the side of the Proud Boys weekend after weekend against
Right.
people who are insisting on human rights. It's going to look like our leadership, our official leadership, saying, well, I'd like to have more police out here and doing this. Like, this is what it looks like. And so I don't
Yeah.
mean that to be alarmist, but I do mean that to like just really reimagine, like, if our workplaces don't look the way that they did in 1861, then neither will our wars.
Right.
And so I thought it was just a really insightful question to ask, what does civil war look like in 2020? Because I think it looks like a country where we fundamentally don't agree, and we need to maybe take a page from Gwyneth Paltrow and the spouse who I don't even know his name, and consciously uncouple. I would love for us to
Brad
be able to do
Falchuk.
that. There
Why
we
do I know
go.
that?
I was like,
Why do I know that?
I was like, I like it. I like it when there's a woman and she has a spouse and I just don't know his name because it's just like a nice turn of events. So I'm just like, I don't know, whatever your name is, right? But like, they consciously uncoupled, and I think that would be the best case scenario, is if we could just agree, like, look, we're not going to get along, and so let's redraw some borders and let's have a constitutional convention and move on, right? That's what Move to Amend and other groups are trying to do. I think otherwise we're going to have to duke it out in the way that the Civil War duked it out. And so I'm not sure which one is the more favorable outcome, but I'm down with anyone that doesn't hamstring us to the status quo.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's also like another thing that I would like to touch on, speaking of kind of like historical precedent, is like if you look back through like fascist and anti-fascist movements, like from Europe and other places over the last couple hundred years, like places where anti-fascism or where fascism has been able to take hold and grow are in societies that did not act when this was happening in their streets, right? Like when it's just like, oh, it's just a little group of idiots, like let them talk themselves out and they'll go back home. You let those guys keep doing that, and you're letting something take root, and that, I mean, and that is actively being tried in our community by white supremacist groups and being aided by police. And there's like, I don't know, like a couple hundred people who are willing to come down and do something about it. You know what I mean? It's like it had, like this is the birth of fascism. It is happening right here in Sacramento in 2020. It must be smashed. It must be stopped, and it will not be stopped by voting. It will not be stopped by calling the authorities and asking them to deal with it. It will only be stopped by us going down to the fucking Capitol and saying enough is fucking enough. And like, I don't know, like you could call that a civil war, I guess, whatever the fuck. It must be stopped. If it is not stopped, this problem grows way beyond where we can control. It grows beyond, like right now it's at a thing where if we go down there with a few hundred people, we can shut it the fuck down. But that's only for now.
I feel like I agree with both of you, but I have a somewhat different vision of what this looks like, this struggle looks like, than both of you. Partially because it's all ephemeral, right? It's the future, and we don't know what exactly that will look like.
Sure.
But I think that, to both of your points, what we're seeing on the street, and then we see police defend them. I think what Daryl and everybody else at City Council need to know is that when you don't act and when you don't speak to this and when you don't talk about this problem, it looks like you support the cops, and by proxy, you support the fascists in the street. And so what's going to, and like, fine. I think earlier, Skylar, you said they know what's coming. I think we know what's coming too. So I'm going to talk about what's coming, because what's going to keep happening is people are going to keep demonstrating. Cops are going to keep killing people of color, Black and brown boys mostly. And we will keep going to the streets. And it will be worse and worse, and there will be more and more cops because you keep fucking hiring them because you think that that's your answer. On the other side, on the policy side, more and more people who are part of the people's budget are going to see how much you continue to bloat up the police budget when all we're doing is going to the streets to say, stop doing this, stop it,
Correct.
change it. And you will continue to build up this police force until we totally overpower you. There will be way more people than the cops can handle. And it will end up being this clash. And what is also happening on the left, which is very intelligent, is that we're taking care of each other where the state refuses to. And Shannon, you were talking about this offline this past week, and I think we should, to your point, get mutual aid people on to talk about why that's important. But the fact that we take care of each other when the state won't, that's us prepping for the state, man. That's us letting the state know and letting the community know the state's not helping you, we are. And so the state needs to get fucking ready for that. And if they don't do what, like what fucking FDR had to do by basically taking on hardcore socialist, things here, and here, these concessions, it's like socialism is our future. Like it is a logical next step. So it's your move, Daryl. It's your move, city. It's your move, entire state of California.
I was on Saturday and Sunday watching what I could get my eyes on from various social media, mainly Twitter, watching video of what was going on downtown with the Proud Boys and the group of heroes that show up to tell them to fuck off, who are being called counter-protesters, I think. And it really was this like all of these moment after moment for me of like welling up, like emotion stuck in my throat, like this feeling of like this is, and I think I said this last episode, this enormous amount of like gratitude that comes from people who are willing to stand up against Proud Boys and their bullshit. And because we know what that means, right? Like, and Kempa, you're talking about it, Flo's talking about it, we're all, Skylar's talking about it. This is like, we are on the edge of some real shit, of things going one way or another. And what it's looking like is it's going to go the way of more and more violence, where the left is no longer protected and the right are just, the cops are just standing around them, protecting all of their fucking bullshit. And I think as Flo brings up this, like, Flo has frequently brought up this conversation around civil war. That is what kept playing in my mind as I was watching what was happening. And as I was watching in particular what was happening to journalists trying to document what was happening. Like, these are people, like, press are supposed to have the freedom to go out and I'm not a journalist, Kempa can talk about this, but are supposed to be able to go out and keep us all informed about what is happening out there. They're supposed to be able to go out there and like record and make sure that I can see what the cops are actually doing, and this hatred and violence that the cops are actually inciting against people who do give a shit about each other. But you have cops who are becoming violent against press, against journalists who are not taking a stand, right? They're like unbiased. They're just out there recording. They're just out there trying to document what the fuck is happening. So it just, I don't know. This is, I guess I'm long-winded tonight and maybe not making a lot of sense, but it does feel like we're on the edge of something. And while we're on the edge of something, there's also something really big happening with press and with journalists who are out there trying to make sure that we can stay informed. And all of that together, I think, really creates this scenario for like fucking catastrophe. Like,
Yeah. And
yeah.
I think I want to throw some numbers down to reinforce what you were just saying about the media and press. Why don't I throw the numbers down and then circle back to what I was going to say? But in 2020, this is according to the Freedom of the Press Foundation, there were 117 documented arrests or detainments of journalists in the US while on the job in 2020. 3 of them were detained more than once. This is about a 1,200% increase from 2019. So
that's a big fucking deal.
That's
Yeah.
A huge deal.
That is a
1,200%.
real fucking problem.
Yes.
So law enforcement officers arrested at least 1 journalist in 40 different US cities. Of the journalists arrested, 43 were assaulted either in the course of covering protests or by law enforcement during or after the arrest. Of the journalists arrested or detained, 39 were covering protests on a freelance or independent capacity. And this is what I really wanted to talk about, because here locally, we have some really great independent media folks out there. And in particular, I want to talk about Black Zebra Productions. They have been indispensable ever since ever since Daryl and everyone else brought in the National Guard to our city. They still went out there. They still risked life and limb. And these are young folks, men and women of color, that are just like unapologetically doing their job. They deal with so much harassment from SAC PD, from the Highway Patrol, from the Sac County Sheriff's Department. These cops really follow them. They push them around. They take photos of themselves in front of their vehicles, showing their license plates. They fuck with them. And
they try and go after their gear and their cameras and shit to take it away and whatnot. Yeah.
And again, this is telling the people, because Black Zebra has gained the people's trust.
Black Zebra is your eyes on the ground if you were not there. That is what they are doing there.
Yes.
Yep.
And
the cops are trying to blind you.
And when they do that, the people who trust them, the people who are afraid to go outside because you put the National Guard out there and they want eyes on the ground, are watching Black Zebra live. When you fuck with them, you fuck with everybody.
Yeah.
And you're telling everybody you're not safe from the city, the county, the state of California. Like, it continues to drive a wedge between the people and the government. And what you need to do is, and like, they're not gonna, but I'm just gonna say it, you need to stop serving the oligarchy of our state. Our billionaires, our multimillionaires, that's the problem. And it's like, it's a very basic thing, and they're not going to stop. And I continue to think that it's going to come to a head.
Well, because obviously not only will they not stop, but they're instead, the solution that they keep coming up with is just to put more cops into the street, put more money into the police department. It's just throwing gas on the fire. And I don't know. I mean, like you said, like something's coming, I don't know what, but something is fucking coming down the pipe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's no other explanation for just the like outright harassment and just like the blockades that are created for Black Zebra in particular. Like, I gotta say, especially this weekend, I mean, Black Zebra has been incredible throughout the pandemic for every demonstration of note. They have been not even of note, for every demonstration. I mean, they are out there. They've got people out there on the ground. They're incredible. This weekend in particular, I watched them really just like go like toe to toe with cops and it's like, why are you blocking me from walking on the sidewalk? Like, I'm just trying to get closer to what's happening, to, you know, to Skylar's point, to be the eyes, you know, that are on the scene. And cops are just like, they can't, like, cops deliberately putting their hands on their firearm for what the fuck reason? For some, like, I mean, I know it's, you know, it's intimidation, obviously, but like, it's a very clear message to those of us who aren't experiencing. It's a very clear message to people who are watching from this side of the screen that something's coming, and whatever it is, it's not going to be, you know, puppy dogs and farting unicorns or whatever.
Farting unicorns.
Rainbow farting unicorns.
Yes. I love that example.
I thought you would.
I use it frequently. Rainbows farting, or unicorns farting rainbows.
Well, this is all incredible, and my blood pressure feels great.
I feel like my blood pressure has just been like steadily rising since like May, and now I'm just used to it. Like my default state of being is just like super amped up all the fucking time.
You're in the age range for Bell's palsy, so please don't get a vaccine soon and then tell us that it's cost.
I was pacing around my place before this episode, and I think this was a really cathartic. Like, I feel like I let it out. This was like a it was a therapy session for me.
It is frustrating, and I think like what's happening with, you know, all of these different things just that we're talking about in this episode in particular feels a lot like, you know, since March, shit has been fucked, and there's just like layer after layer of horrible thing, and then like this weekend happens, and like, you know, the Proud Boys keep coming out and fucking shit up, and the police keep protecting them, and we're just like at a point where it's like, how much can people handle? How much more can we fucking handle before? I don't know what happens to your body when you can't. I mean, does it shut down? Does it explode? Do I like,
Bell's palsy.
Is it Bell's palsy? Am I gonna have a fucking heart attack? Am I gonna need to have ulcers removed? Like,
all of the above.
Do you have
is that
ulcers
comforting?
removed?
Oh, great.
No,
is that comforting? That all of the above is the response to major prolonged experiences of stress?
Yeah, I feel really good about that answer.
Right.
Thank you.
Right.
I mean, I trust the science.
Happy to help. Just came to help out.
Before we leave this topic, I just want to put it out there for our listeners too. Like, this is the call to action here is if you can, if you are able, if you are willing to be a part of the resistance movement against what is going on down at the Capitol, look, like I would never in a million years tell you to just come down by yourself and do it, but look at, like, talk to people, find some connections, figure out how to get connected, because this is an all hands on deck situation as far as I'm concerned. We need all the help that we can get to stamp this shit out right now and pull it up by the root. So try and make connections, try and find your way, try and find a group to come down and do it. And you know, be ready for what's gonna. I mean, I'm not gonna like paint a super rosy picture how shit's gonna go, because to be 100% honest, there's a likely or a potential for violence waged against you by Proud Boys and the police. There's also the potential that you will be arrested for a crime you didn't commit and you'll go to jail. To that end, if you, like, understandably, if going out into the street and facing off against Proud Boys and riot cops sounds like kind of too much, which like, I would never judge anybody for taking that stance. But there are organizations like NorCal Resist that you can get involved in. You can donate money to bail funds for people who get arrested at these things. You can be on standby for jail support. You can be on standby for med support. There's many different ways that you can be involved in them, and all involved in this, and they don't all involve being willing to like punch people. There's a lot of ways that you can get involved. So I would encourage you, if this is something you're interested in, to look into that.
And secondarily, as far as building community, I think it would be important to talk about mutual aid. And there's a lot of people doing a lot of amazing work, making sure your neighbors are fed, making sure that they're housed, making sure that the Maslow's hierarchy of needs are being met currently, because again, the state's not letting that happen. So something as simple as the Sacramento community fridges around town that have fridges out for folks experiencing homelessness to be able to enjoy a meal. There is the Sacramento Tenants Union that fights tooth and nail to keep people in housing. ACE does amazing work on that front too. Who am I missing here?
I think you're covering a lot of the major ones.
Okay, just the making
and then
sure
our
people's needs
homelessness advocates, I think, are probably the only ones that maybe haven't been covered.
Yeah. So like Loaves and Fishes, right? The emergency really place, the major resource that folks experiencing homelessness can go to during the day and not feel like they are unwelcome or in danger. And I don't think you can stress that enough, how important it is just for you to feel safe when you don't have a roof over your head. So all of these things, if you can support any of them in any way that you can, we all have different skills, different things we're comfortable with, please do.
Absolutely. There is one organization that you neglected to mention, Dave. Perhaps the most remarkable of all the organizations in the nation. I'm just gonna in the world. Let's just do it in the world. I'm talking about a place where the perfect takes flow like wine, where perfect takes fall around you like ambrosia. I'm not doing this right. Anyway, Dave, what place am I talking about?
I enjoyed that a lot, actually.
Like
okay.
ambrosia?
No. I don't know either. Does ambrosia fall?
Yeah, I think you eat ambrosia or you drink it.
You eat it.
Okay. That place is called voicesrivercity.com. We've been around a little over 3 years. We started with doing news and arts coverage, community essays. We did the Sac Falls of Money project. We still try to do that during every election. And then we also, of course, the current iteration is the podcast that we are now 115 episodes in. And the first 24 or so are thanks to our dear old friend, Anthony Sino. We've built something kind of cool and fun, and hopefully we're helping people. So yeah, it's been a lot of fun to do. You can find us on all podcast platforms. You can find us on YouTube, Voices River City. You can find us on Facebook, Voices River City, on Twitter, Voices River City, on Instagram at Voices River City. It's extremely funny. Skylar runs that. Follow it. We are on Patreon. If you want to, so we have 2 episodes a week. If you want our Friday episodes, you can, for as low as $5 a month, subscribe to our Patreon, become a patron of the art of podcasting. And and you'll get 4 extra episodes, 4 or 5, depending on the month, right there in your phone or whatever device it is you use. And those episodes are really fun because we feel like we're a little like, we can be like a little
we
more
know we're
ourselves.
just talking to the cool kids on those episodes.
That's right.
And like we sort of let loose, and like we don't think that like Officer Agent Squillion over in Virginia is listening to that one. So
Now he
feel
is.
free to become a patron, Agent Squillion. If you want to become a patron,
Become a patron, Agent Squillion.
Come on, Squillion.
open invite, yeah. But yeah, I guess that's all things about us. We also have a store. It's Hanukkah, Christmas, Kwanzaa. We have a store with a whopping 6 items, soon to be 7 items.
Oh man.
Oh yeah, we're about to add masks with Voices River City logos on there. But yeah, check out the store. It's all very reasonably priced merch. It's fun stuff to have, and it's been fun to have people already have orders already. So it's Voices
Look, I'm
River
wearing
City.
the shirt right now, and I'm having so much fun.
Look how much fun Skylar's having.
Look at
for
this!
you
Look at
viewers.
this right now.
Skylar's having the best time.
So much fun.
That is the what is that one called? The something gray?
Charcoal.
Charcoal gray. Sorry, I
Charcoal
get that
gray.
confused with the heather.
Also Heather. There's a couple.
Beautiful
Oh,
shirt.
never mind.
You can get a koozie. You can for White Claws, not for beer. You can get a coffee mug, a couple stickers. There's a lot going on.
This sounds
here.
like probably the best store on the internet.
Yeah,
It
I'm
is-
going way
it's
too
the
much
best
into
store.
this for like 5-6 items. Anyway, we're having a lot of fun with Voices River City, and we love you all.
I would like to say too, if you if becoming a patron is not financially viable for you, that is 100% understandable and fine. Another thing you can do for us, if you like the show, is to just rate and review us on your podcast app or on
Yes.
YouTube. Actually, Dave, we just got a YouTube comment recently.
my
I was
gosh, read,
hoping
please.
that you could. This is the kind of thing that
It's so
I would
good.
like to see more of from the people who watch us on YouTube.
Yeah.
Dave read this comment to us before we did the show, and it kind of made my whole day.
Yes, absolutely. It was a beautiful comment. I need to find it real quick. So sorry, you'll have to edit this.
So this is somebody, somehow our show got into like the YouTube algorithm incorrectly. We did the Leaving the Democrats episode a couple ones ago. So the YouTube algorithm put us like after some MAGA video as like a suggested watch. And so MAGA people were watching a video called Leaving the Democrats, thinking it was going to be like a right-wing thing.
And it's a bunch of socialists, right? And my favorite comment, which like I got an email about it, we got a message about it on our YouTube channel, but then when I went to the video, it's not there. So I don't know if YouTube deleted it or if the person did. But I want them to know that we love this comment.
This is the best comment I've ever got. Yeah.
It's a comment from somebody named Lori Kova. And again, this is the Leaving the Democratic Party episode. These assholes put a fake title on the video, making normal people think, oh, look, retards finally decided to grow a brain and leave the democratic group. But no, soy boy and lesbos talking to themselves. We hate you. We don't want you in our country, and you will find out. You will find out.
Hell
Wow.
yeah.
And
Okay.
then
Lori, thank you for your feedback. Oh, right. They also, and then apparently they kept listening, and then they had another comment a few minutes later that was just like, you're the fascists. Which also didn't end up in the comments.
So, but here's the thing that I'm confused about. It's soy boy singular, right? I mean, it's like lesbos is plural, but soy boy is only singular. So
it's
like,
the guy with the long hair.
I think so.
I don't know.
I don't know. If
Or
that-
is
Lori,
it like three
Lori,
lesbos?
reach out and clarify this soy boy
Lori,
thing
we
for us.
I
We
wanna
need
want to
to
be
hear
know.
lesbo-
from you.
Yeah.
I could be one of the lesbos. and
You
maybe
could be
you're
one of
the
the lesbos.
soy
I might be
boy.
one of the
Yeah.
lesbos. I don't know. I wear a lot of
Yeah.
plaid.
Wow, we really have to unpack this with Lori.
I would like to, yeah, Lori.
I would like to better understand what's happening. 'Cause I'm legitimately confused.
It's a YouTube commenter. Who knows?
Is
All
it a
right.
bot? Like, is this what the Russian bots sound like, or is this an actual
That's how
person?
they type.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We will find out.
All right. Well, until we find out, we listeners, if you are still listening somehow for some reason, to the show. We want you to know that we love you and we want you to stay safe.
Stay sane.
Stay healthy.